Welcome back to Faith and Fire. Today I want to talk about a topic that I'm actually know little about. It's the spiritual realm. So I hear people talk about things like spiritual warfare, and yet other people talk about, encounters with spirits and ghosts. And so is it connected? Is it all connected to the spiritual world? Is there a gift of being able to connect with the spiritual world, or is it like smoke and mirrors? What is it? So today I've brought together people who have a variety of experiences on the topic to help me understand. I want to know, what is the spiritual realm and how much do I need to know about it and how does it impact me and my faith? So with me today, I have Dr. Joy, our favorite presiding elder from the AME Church. And we also have Shari Sims, our resident modern spiritual yogi. I just like saying it at this point. And Amber Touchet, a spiritual curious soul with Catholic roots. So now, Shari, you have mentioned before that you have a gift related to the spiritual realm. So I would love to know more about that as we kick off this episode.
Sure. It actually runs in my family. My mom's sister, myself, we've all had multiple encounters with spirits throughout our lives. So I feel like everybody has the ability to sense spirits or sense the imprint of a spirit. It just is how sensitive you might be. I'm definitely an empath. So I feel things very deeply. So I feel like my radar for spirits is just a little bit more sensitive than perhaps the average person.
Okay.
So, I have a story like right away from when I was a baby. We would go to this like bed and breakfast type place in Constantia, which is in Cape Town, South Africa. And it is a set of traditional Dutch style homes that you will see all over Cape Town and South Africa in general. And there was a specific room that my parents would put me in because that's where the baby crib was. And we would go like regularly. Like this was like the holiday. It was an inexpensive holiday that my parents could do. It was close to the house. And I would never sleep. And I was a good sleeper. Like I was always a good sleeper as a baby, as a toddler. When it's bedtime, I'm ready to go sleep through the night. And I would never sleep in this place. And I have one distinct memory. I was maybe 2.5 of a woman in a chair, rocking in the room with me. And I asked my mom about it the next day. Like, who was she? Mom, like, who was that lady in my room all night? She kept me awake all night, Mom. And my mom, being sensitive as well, she was like telling my dad, I told you. I told you there was something in that room. I told you. But my dad is like, oh, yeah. But yeah, so she could sense that there was something in the room. And then as a young child with no filter, no confusion about the world, I could see the spirit in the room. And she was benign, like she wasn't harmful, but I believe that was her home. She was in like late 1800s garb. And there was also another time we were there was a black snake in the room with me. And the same spirit actually like moved it along out of the room so that it didn't.
Like a real life snake that could have harmed you.
Correct.
Wow.
Yikes. Yeah. Yikes, for sure. So we didn't go to that holiday. They were like chalets. That's what they were called back in the day, the chalet rental. Yeah. So yeah, my parents.
Forget the spirit. The snake did it.
Yeah, the snake, that was the end of the line for that. But yeah, I have all kinds of experience, especially in South Africa, like in Cape Town specifically. So many atrocious things happened. Atrocious things have happened all over the world. But I just feel like the spirits there just aren't able to move on, like can't move on, couldn't move on. So, I mean, even just recently I was with my husband and there were multiple places where I was like, oh, the spot's haunted. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So how much of that, I mean, you were really young in that first story. How much of that did you have to process later on in life? Like you have that memory and you have to kind of replay it and try to figure out like, what did I just see?
I mean, because it keeps happening, like it's not confusing to me. I feel like I'm not able to see as clearly as when I was younger, but the sense is still there. You know, we stayed at a place called the Lanzerac in Stellenbosch recently at the beginning of the year. And it is like a schmancy 5-star, 5-diamond, like the nicest resort out there. That place was, I could not wait to leave. Could not wait to leave. I was so creeped out from the minute I walked into our room specifically. Oh, this cold, heavy, like sad, dark feeling. And then doing my research on the place after the fact, turns out there were a lot of slaves that were held there. There's a lot of atrocities that occurred there. And it's just like the energy of the whole place is so sad. So sad.
Wow. So you have to do a lot of research before you vacation.
100%. And this is why, like, I'm not into like homes with character, like historic homes. I'm like, give me a new build all day long. Arizona's great for me.
Yes. I love that. So I'd love to hear from each of you. Dr. Joy, what has your experience been with the spiritual realm?
It has been, it's been a journey because I didn't grow up with that knowledge. And I didn't grow up with anyone who had that knowledge that would share it. But what I have discovered is that things would happen to me, around me, and not necessarily bad, but I would, because I'm really into energy. And it's like, And I would have to process it later. But, and so as I've gotten older, I started seeking more. I started to learn more, and I'm at home with angels. I talk to them, and they're in my world.
Okay. So for you, the spiritual world is more around angels, energy.
Not just.
So both sides of the story.
I'm real clear. I'm real clear that it's not just all foo-foo angels hanging out, but there are some demonic spirits out there. And otherwise, we wouldn't even have the issue of spiritual warfare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll dig into that one later. But Amber, what is your experience?
I think I'm kind of in the middle of both. Okay. So, and the way I say that is because my mom is very in tune with angels and very spiritual and all of the things that you just spoke to. And so I think that I've always kind of grown up with that. But I also think, much like Shari said, is that I think everybody has the ability, but it's whether or not you're in tune, whether you're looking or seeing and feeling the signs. So I think I've had a few, I think, where there's some spooky things. Like we went on vacation bunch and stayed in a hotel, and I could not fall asleep. And I was so afraid. I remember getting out of my own bed, climbing in bed with my mother, and just clinging to her because there was just something really eerie and spooky and just creepy in the room. And I just prayed all night long, let the sun come up, let it be done. Because it just was really weird. I did not like that feeling. And then I remember when my daughter was very, very young, when I was rocking her to sleep one night, she was having a conversation. And I said, "Who are you talking to?" And she goes, "Oh, that man in the corner." And I said, "Can you describe him?" And she totally described my grandfather, which she was way too young to ever know who that was, even if she would have seen a picture or anything. And it was of him when he was much younger. So it kind of gave me goosebumps in a good way. Mm-hmm. So I definitely feel like there's been times, and I always look for little signs in nature. I think when I see a hummingbird, it always makes me think of my grandmother, or when I'm really going through something, I'll pray for God to send me a sign. And I always feel like when I'm open to that, I can always see and feel when he's sending those signs and talking to me. So kind of in the middle.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm very much in tune with signs from the natural world as well, but also with spirits that maybe have crossed over and have been released, but they still have like somewhat of an imprint. So my mom passed away very suddenly, and I got the call that she was gone. Obviously that was shocking and terrible. You have all the feelings. And that evening, like as the shock had worn off, I remember just sitting on my sofa and just feeling this warm presence envelop me. And I felt all of the sharpness of the pain just drain like out of my body. Like I literally felt something envelop me and just pull all of the horror out of me. And it was this deep sense of like calm and this deep sense of just, hey babe, I'm okay. Like I'm moving on. You're going to be okay because will always be with you. And it was just so clear that it was my mom. It was so clear. And it was just like this whole shroud of grief lifted. And, obviously it was devastated and sad and like all the things that come with it. But there was no like fear, there was none of that. Like it was just more grieving the loss, but not really grieving her, because I knew that her spirit was free and her spirit was at peace. And she did, like, she made sure that I knew that she was okay so that I could be okay before she left.
Wow.
And then I felt her go.
Wow.
So these, and what somebody said, I don't know who, but about you having to be open to receiving and open to experiencing. As my journey has evolved and I've learned more and more and been open to more and more of what God is showing me, because in the fullness of God there is, period. And so if I believe that as my premise, then I have to believe that all that is in this realm, the natural realm, the spiritual realm, is, right? Mm-hmm. And so I remember once, and those things have happened several times, but here's where faith intersects. You're like, no, I'm not supposed to think that or hear that or feel that or know that, because we don't talk about that in our faith. But I think we do ourselves a disservice when we do that. So I said that was a caveat there, but here's what happened. I was called to the hospital. And as I am, and I'm very comfortable in those spaces with people when they're about to transition. I don't know why. I used to think I was weird, but I'm clear now that's part of my call. This person did not attend my church, was not a member of my church, but they called me in. And so as I'm there, there's another minister in, and there are other people around the bed, and it's clear that he's about to transition. So they asked me to pray, and I go to the head of the bed, and I touch him, and we're all touching, and I'm praying, and my spirit is I'm releasing him for a safe journey. And when we finished praying, I looked at him. I literally saw his spirit get up and leave.
Wow.
And I was about to talk myself out of it until God allowed the other minister to see it too. So that is our connection, and we've been like this since. But I had never, in all the times I've been with someone as they're transitioning, I had not seen the spirit leave the body.
How powerful. Very powerful.
And it was like God was showing me that this is nothing I need to be afraid of as long as I'm rooted in him.
Yes.
As long as I'm not using it to substitute anything for my faith. And so that was releasing for me. And I carry that, like God allowed me to see that.
Wow.
I love that. Looking at it as the gift that it is. That's
yes.
Fantastic.
That's really cool. So you each spoke a little bit about how you had to be open to it. And So my question is, how do you get to that place of openness? Like if you're somebody who's just hearing this for the first time or just realizing this world exists and you're like, wait, we're not here alone. How do you open yourself up to those experiences, to pay attention to those, the spiritual realm, the natural signs, all of that energy too. Energy is a big one.
It is a big one. And I'll start with that one because what I did was, in a place of readiness, I asked.
You asked who?
God.
Okay, that makes sense, given that.
I asked God, I said, there has to be more. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. This human thing kind of trips me out, but I want to understand the spiritual piece of this, because if I'm going back to spirit, then I need to understand how I came here, spirit, and what I'm supposed to do here, spirit. And if I'm made in the likeness of you, who is spirit, then there's something about this that I'm missing that I've learned to be afraid of that I shouldn't. And I showed on myself then. And I said, show me. Send the teacher. Because I said, and I don't want to be deceived by anyone. So don't send me anybody in my path to teach me that is not of you. I asked.
Yeah, and you not only asked for the gift or to have your eyes open, right? But you also asked for the discernment.
Yes.
Because sometimes when you're exploring, it takes that discernment of, are the sources that are pouring into me credible sources?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely, because like we were talking about, some could be demonic.
Yeah. I mean, any other advice for how to create that openness?
Sure. I mean, in the yogic tradition, meditation, concentration would be one way to, and then also what you ingest, what you watch, what you read, what you, the relationships in your life, like who you let into your life. I feel like when you're in situations where there's a lot of things in your life that's really toxic, you have to put up all kinds of barriers to protect yourself. If you're in a toxic relationship, an abusive relationship, if you have a toxic work environment or living situation, it might not be the easiest thing to open yourself up to things like that, because you need to protect your energy. You need to protect your space. So, it's good to have your walls up in those situations. So, easier said than done, but I think there is a process of weaning out things in your life that might be causing you to have to put up those barriers and those walls. And I also believe that with, time, as you cleanse those things from your life. Because I had a lot of toxic friends. I've had some really bad jobs. I've had horrible living situations in the past. And in those times in my life, I actually felt darker energies cling to me.
Ooh.
I lived in this building. And it was like death was following me everywhere. One, a gentleman upstairs died in his apartment above me, and nobody found him for a couple of weeks.
Oh.
Yes. And so, and during that, and so it's interesting because during that period of time, while his spirit was stuck there, I don't know what was going on. I lived on a really busy boulevard, Sepulveda Boulevard in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And this kid who would always hang out behind my building with his friends threw himself into moving traffic, and was hit by a car. And, I was home. So I was the one who had to call 911, and I was the one that had to go and answer the questions like, is he breathing? Does he have a pulse? Like all of these things. A few days later, I was on the freeway and a vehicle ricocheted off the center divider and flew across 5 lanes of traffic and hit another wall. And I was the one that pulled over and had to call 911. And are they alive? And then I get home and there's, the coroner pulling the body bag out of my apartment. So all this stuff happened in such quick succession. I was like, what is going on? But I was in a rough place in my life, bad job, bad relationship, this crazy building, just like not in a good spot. And I was like, something is stuck to me. Something is stuck to me and I need to get it off. And I did. I had to start like shedding. I was like, I'm done with this building. I'm moving. I'm done with this relationship. We're done. I'm done with this job. Like I was like, all of these toxic things in my life, like I have to just get rid of them so that I can start to purify my container so that I'm no longer a magnet, like this big empty open space for all of these spirits and these dark energies to like cling to me. And it was right at that period of my life where I started dedicating myself to my yoga practice. I got a new job at the wellness center. I became exposed to all of these things. I started taking yoga regularly. I started meditating, and I literally, it was like this huge shift in my life and my energy and it hasn't happened since. So yeah, I'm sorry for the long-winded answer, but my advice is like, do you want to be more sensitive to these things? I don't know if that's something that people are actively searching for, but if you are, you start to look at and investigate and examine your life and the quality of your thoughts and the quality of your relationships and start to purify yourself, because that will allow you to be more sensitive to pick up these because they're subtle bodies. They live in the astral plane. They're spirits that haven't crossed over. They're still on their journey. Like in the yogic tradition, like you're on your journey to find God realization, to become one with God. But otherwise, we're all just on the highway. Like we're all souls on the highway. Right now, my soul is in this body doing this thing, trying to get purified. I'm not doing a great job. Sorry, soul. On to the next. I'm doing my best. But, so sometimes these souls get stuck. They get stuck on in the astral plane, and then they're just out here trying to find another human body to inhabit so that they can do the work that they need to do to pass on and cross over.
Wow. So do you think all of that, I don't know what else to call it other than gunk, all of that?
Yeah, no, it is. It's energetic gunk for sure.
Energetic gunk. Do you think that's what makes us more sensitive to it as children as opposed to adults, because we don't have all that junk? We haven't, as my pastor likes to say, and he's going to be so proud when he hears this, we don't have as many rocks in our backpack.
Right. Yeah. Totally. Absolutely. Yes.
So Pastor, I was listening during the sermon last week and the week before and the week before that and the week before that when you talked about that backpack. I just want you to know that.
Another thing is about, you were asking about the children and why they're more sensitive to it. We come here with a level of light, right? And the purer the light, the more we are able to, because we're in the spirit realm, the more we're able to interact and see and know. And then it gets clouded with our human experience. It gets clouded with the judgments that come, the lack of love that comes, all the stuff we would classify as the darkness. Okay. And then that light doesn't go out, because darkness really is just a lot of noise. Yeah. It's noisy, so it gets attention. But the light that we come with, you can rekindle that light. I know for a fact that a lot of the interactions that I've had with people that haven't been so positive, when I haven't even been able to articulate what happened with that relationship, is because they can't be around my light. And I used to not be able to say that because it sounded pompous, but it's the truth.
I think it makes sense.
Because as I have become on this journey to be more authentic, to be more loving, to be less judgmental, that moves some of the energetic gunk out your way. And you're able to see people for who they are. You're able to accept people for who they are. You're able to love people for who they are, even if they're unlovable. Because it's really not about them. It's about you.
Yeah. Hey. You said even if they're unlovable. My instant thought was like, is that a thing? I'm determined to love everyone.
It is a thing. It is a thing. And when you're determined to love everyone, the unlovable is going to come into your life.
You're going to get love today.
No, the unlovable doesn't mean people don't deserve love. That's not what I'm saying.
The unlovable is more things that they put on themselves.
Yes.
That they don't feel like they're lovable.
Yes.
That they take in all these things. And we heard something in a sermon not too long ago at my church where hurt people hurt people.
Yes, they do.
And that is like, I've heard it several times, but that was like more recently. And I feel like that really comes into this as well, because I think even sometimes for ourselves, we get lost. So I think kind of both of what you said is first you have to center yourself and be quiet. You have to come inward. You have to look and you have to say, am I at a place where I can accept and listen and feel and accept things, right? And if you're ready to do that, then you can get curious. Then you can start kind of saying like, what are my boundaries? What do I want to let into my life? And then you ask God, help me see whatever it is that you're looking for. So I think it has to kind of be a little bit of both, but you got to start inward first.
So you got to start open, and then you can be spirit realm curious.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing. That's on a t-shirt later. I feel it.
I like it.
Okay, so I'm loving this conversation already. I do want to key in on something that you said earlier that I said I was going to circle back to. So you talked a little bit about this concept of spiritual warfare. What is spiritual warfare, and what does it feel like, look like? How do we know if we're in it?
You would know if you were in it. And as Shari was talking earlier about, you just go and you feel this energy happen. And then and there was this stuff happening. Spiritual warfare is when demonic forces intervene in humanity.
Your voice changed. That was the dictionary version, wasn't it?
No, I'm giving you my radio voice.
Oh, okay.
No, spiritual warfare is though when I'm trying to get down to its basic answer is that when demonic forces intervene in the human experience, and it's not positive.
Okay.
Right. And sometimes we can attract those things. Like Shari was talking about, she felt something attached to her. And until you get to the place where you're like, wait, okay, I have to shed this. So I don't know I may not know how to deal with spiritual warfare, but I know somebody that does.
Yes. And they're out there. So, okay. So I'm actually just now putting 2 and 2 together.
Yes.
Okay. So when I started this job at the wellness center, and every month you got to pick one service that you wanted to try. So you could try something. So it was stuff I'd never done before. There was tarot cards and an astrology reading and the reflexology and the acupuncture and like the physical stuff. But there was a shamanic healer there. And she and I had multiple sessions because she was so startled by these cords that I had on me, attached to me. And she did multiple shamanic healing sessions with me to help cut these cords. So I had, somehow, I don't know if it was, some of them were karmic, but some of them were just environmental. Like I had picked up these ties to things that were not mine and didn't belong to me. And she helped me cut all of these cords. I know she was a Peruvian shaman. And I didn't really realize I was like, what kind of cords could they be? And now
like soul ties?
Some of them, yes, in that realm. Yes.
Generational curses. And
yes.
Some denominations, religions, call it generational curses, where something just seems to go from generation to generation to generation.
Oh, I was thinking more like Tinder, when you meet somebody and you connect with them, but you're not supposed to be with them, but you got a soul tie now.
No. No. Help her, Lord. But when you were telling it, Shari, when you were telling your story earlier, it was a classic definition of, what that looks like, what that feels like.
Yeah.
I remember, and I think I share this story, so it's nothing that people don't know. Others might go like, but anyway, when I first went to this one church I was assigned to, I walked in there and the energy was awful. It was so heavy that there were places the Lord would not even allow me to go in.
Is that when you saged the whole church?
I brought a team in.
Wow.
There were 8 of us.
Oh my gosh.
That prayed and cleansed and prayed and cleansed for 8 hours. We had to go through every room, and there were things in there, couch, there were furniture. Don't sit on it. I'm like, but don't sit on that. Whatever happened, don't sit there.
It ain't good, right?
And it was not good. And so it was just being led by those kinds of and feeling the energy. And here was the proof of it. Someone who hadn't been to the church in a while came in and walked in the vestibule and said, "What is going on in here?" This feels lighter.
Yeah.
This feels,
Wow.
and I said, so people can say what they want to say. I'm clear. I'm clear that this is real and that you have to cleanse the space sometimes. You have to get rid of some of that stuff because we all come in with our gunk, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I leave some with Jessica, I leave some with Shari, I leave some, I could give you some.
Yeah.
Right?
You're
I
not careful.
walk out and I'm a little freer. But
Right.
y'all like, what just happened?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, there's this yoga center that I would go to all the time in LA. It's the Shivananda Vedantic Center in Marina del Rey. Shout out. And the energy in that place was the cleanest. It was like a bell, like a crystal bell. You just walk in. You don't have to do anything. You just walk in the building and you just feel yourself elevate. You feel your spirit clear, your mind clear. Because, I mean, they literally are people like in there chanting and meditating and doing kirtan, 16 hours a day. Like they start at 5 a.m. With chanting, and they chant for several hours every morning, and then everyone's in there, practicing. And so it's an old school yoga studio. Like there's no music at all. It's quiet always. They have the altar has every deity ever. Jesus is up there and Buddha is up there and all the Hindu, deities are up there. So like, because it's a Vedanta center, it's not a religious place. It's like we celebrate all. And so all are welcome.
Not religious, it's a place of faith.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my favorite spot in LA. I miss that place. But yeah, the energy in there was so clean and clear because everyone that's in there was actively creating, participating, and adding to it and elevating it and helping to release and let things go. And, if you walk in there with any of your crap from the day, because I would go after work and have to sit in rush hour and get to the other side of town. And like you walk in there and you're like, wow, it would just take a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden it was just like a cold, like just this like shower, like an internal mental shower. Cause the energy in that place was so clear. It was awesome.
So if we don't live in LA and we find ourselves in the midst of a spiritual warfare, or say you don't even know what's going on, you just feel this energy that you feel extra rocks in your backpack that you didn't put in there. How do you cleanse yourself of that? Who do you call? Ghostbusters? Like, what
read
do
my
you
mind,
do?
Jess. I was just thinking the same thing. Like, how do we clear our gunk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I go back to you ask, God, I don't know what this is. I just feel it. I don't know much about this or that, but I need to be rid of this. Show me.
Yeah.
That's my go-to. Show me my next step. Because, I have an inquisitive mind. And then things will resonate with your spirit.
Yeah.
So when it resonates with your spirit, it's for you.
Yeah. When you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you can't put your finger on it, but you're just like, yep,
Right.
I feel
But I'm
that.
a firm believer if you ask, he'll answer.
That's beautiful.
I'm definitely more practical than that. So I've got like a list, I've got like a list of things that I do.
Give me a list.
One of them is saging. That helps. Except sage makes me a little ill. So I go the Palo Santo route. I much prefer.
What's Palo Santo?
It's a wood.
It's a little different. It
tree.
smells
Yeah.
good.
It smells
It's
incredible.
cleansing.
I kind of do both. I like both.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll cleanse, like I'll smudge.
I'm sorry, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to learn about all
Yeah.
this.
And then I do clapping. So like literally clapping around myself to clear the energies in my space. I'll clap out. Like if I'm somewhere creepy, you'll just see me walking around, literally clapping the corners. I'm just walking on, clapping out, clapping. And then I brush too. So like with my hands, like my aura around. So like if after like I've taught, like sometimes after teaching, like I have a lot of stuff, like other people's stuff on
get
me.
the gunk?
I get the gunk. So then I will have to like leave a class and I'll literally like start at the top of my head with my hands and like right like an inch from my body will start to like brush my energies off, like down my arms, down my chest, down my back. And then I brush it all the way out and then like shake it out of my hands and then clap the area around me just to like clear the energy off myself.
So growing up in the church, you just said a beautiful keyword because you were like, they go shake, shake, shake.
Oh my gosh.
Shake the devil off. Wow.
Oh,
No way. So the 8-year-old in me was
wow.
like, ooh, even though I don't think that the song was around when I was 8, but
Oh my gosh.
the kids are 8 when they sing it. But that is so cool. Okay. So tell me more about this clapping thing, because I will go around randomly clapping. Well, that was wonderful. So I will go around randomly clapping with no rhyme or reason. And I'm sure there's a rhyme or a reason to it. Like, what am I trying to do? Where am I clapping? How am I clapping?
Yeah, I mean, I would like start in the back of the area, the building, and like start like literally at like the top and like clap down the corners of the walls, and then like clap out the door, like, and then like brush the energy out. So you're just like trying to disturb the energy. Like you're trying to disturb it, move it, wake it up, let it know you're here.
Okay.
I'm here. You don't belong. I don't want you here. Please be gone.
Work on people.
I think if you start clapping in someone's face, they probably would back off.
But processes work on people. So let me preface this by saying, I don't invite everybody to my house.
Nope.
That's your sanctuary.
Definitely
It's your
not.
space.
I'm real clear about that. And so don't get offended if you haven't been invited. I just haven't gotten your energy yet.
Or do get offended because you have negative energy and she's not letting you in.
Now you know.
Or if you do, I'm doing some serious cleansing afterwards. But anyway, I'm real clear about my house too. And I release my angels to, when I leave out of town, I release them to take care of things. I release them to. So I had some guests that stayed with me, and I was gone, but I trusted them. I was gone. She said, listen, when I got back, she said, I don't know what you got going on in here, but I couldn't get in the door. I was bumping into stuff. Stuff was being moved into me. And I realized, wait, they don't understand that you told me I could stay here. So she said she had to go out the door and say, listen, I know this is your space, and she must have told you to do something, but I'm here invited. Can I come in?
I love that.
Wow.
And she came, and she said she came in and she experienced the peace that I try to have in my home. She said, but they were not letting her have any
Everything
peace.
was falling. That's crazy.
Your angels were like, get her. That's right. I'm like, they fierce. I'm telling you, they're fierce.
Oh, wow.
Well, now I understand why you always post on Facebook when you leave the house. I'm like, she's going to get robbed, but your angels got you covered.
That's a different kind of spiritual warfare, right?
So the
Good
different
kind.
So
Yeah.
warfare is
Good
not
kind.
always you're fighting the enemy.
Right.
Warfare can be God fighting for you.
Yeah, I love that.
Right?
I love that.
So I'm clear. You said you'd fight my battles for me. I'm getting ready to go somewhere, handle this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had so many moments where I'm like, I should have died, been kidnapped, like making real dumb decisions. And now looking back, I'm like, holy moly, the angels were looking out for me. There's no other explanation. Like logically, rationally, I was like, should have been abducted.
Oh, yeah. A million times a day. It's like, dear God, my guardian angels, please.
Exactly. And I my spirit, and part of my call now is to take what we've learned traditionally and introduce and let people know it's okay to, when the Bible says God will discharge angels on your behalf, it's not just saying that.
Yeah.
Right? That there's a truth to that. And they're non-judgmental and they're there for your protection and all of that. And so, yeah, in my circles, these are not conversations of the day.
Really?
No. But that's my call.
Yeah.
So what you gonna do? Fire me?
I love that. Making it more of the normal conversation, right?
It has to be. Because then people ask me, well, how did you do?
I love that.
Don't
though.
ask if you don't want to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you.
Well, and if I think about that too, if we really look into the Bible, I mean, just look at like the angel of the Lord came to Joseph and Mary, like those kind of things right there, right? Like if that could happen all the way back then, why can't it happen today?
And it
just
does.
because we have all this technology and people always want to see the physical proof, like that's not what faith is. Like we have this conversation all the time in my house, like and with the children in my family and stuff, and just saying like, I don't know if I believe. Well, do you believe that I love you? That's faith. Do you believe in the wind? That's faith. Do we believe that the sun's going to come up tomorrow? So it doesn't always have to be something you can see. And I think that making that be part of the normal conversation, like they're there. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's literally in the word if you're reading it, right?
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful for this Faith and Fire. I think it's an event whose time has come. It's a conversation whose time has come, because we don't get free until we get free. Right. I know I just said the same thing over, but it'll drop in somebody's spirit and they'll say, I know exactly what she's talking about. We can't be afraid and walk through this life. I'm going to share one last story, if I may. It may be one last story, but it is a story. When my mom died, I had to take care of most of the stuff. And because I'm in those places, I didn't really, that was my grieving. That was my, but I kept saying and hearing about people, oh, my sister would say, Mom visited me today. I'm like, wait, she didn't come to me. She didn't come. So for a long time, I was a little resentful. I'm like, what did I do or didn't do? It's what my thinking was. And so the conversation with the Lord was, I just need to understand, what am I looking for the wrong thing? What's happening here? And the Lord allowed me through the angels to see that my mom's life the earth was not kind to her when she was here. It was not kind to her. And he allowed me to see her life over time. And I got it. She had a difficult life. She loved us, but she had a difficult life. She was ready to get up out of here. And so instead of, she has no desire to come back, even for you, whom she loves so much. But what you can do in your garden is put some little flowers and stuff, a little place of joy, and you'll feel her presence. And that day I was freed from that.
Wow.
I think sometimes too, it's not whether or not, maybe she didn't come to you because you didn't need her to.
Well, that's what someone else said, is that you've always been the one that people went to for help. You've never really shown that you needed help. Maybe she doesn't think she's okay. Yeah. You're okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like you understand that she needed to pass on, that life wasn't kind to her. And so maybe she comes to you in different ways, right? Maybe she presents in a different style. So,
but yeah.
Wow.
That's a good story.
That is a really good story. Pieces of it. Yeah. I've heard pieces of it, but it's really cool to hear in this context, and about how it just really relates to the topic that we're talking about. So if someone's watching this and up until they saw this episode and just clicked on it because it sounded interesting and doesn't really know anything about the spiritual realm, what would you leave them with? Like, what is that nugget that you would say, like, this is what I want you to take away or go explore now that you know about the spiritual realm? Or maybe it's a caution. If you see this, turn, don't sit on that couch. What would that thing be?
I mean, I would say that, one, it's real. And that just to have a healthy, not fear is the wrong word, but just a healthy dose of awareness, so that you can start to like understand and notice if like funky things are happening to you. You know, there might be something off about your ties, about what's around you, your environment, where you're at. So to not think that maybe there's something specifically wrong with you, it might be forces that are perhaps, you know, not outside of your control, because you can do things to protect yourself and you can do things to clear your space, but to be aware that there are other things out there affecting what's happening in the material world, and to allow yourself to be open and be aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might have a soul tie, not from a Tinder date, but from some generational mishaps that have happened.
Correct.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah. I think you nailed it. That's pretty well said. You know, it's real. Don't necessarily be afraid, but be aware.
Don't be afraid, be aware.
Yes.
Nice.
That would be the bow on this conversation. We are spiritual beings. You don't want to be afraid of yourself.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. Be aware, but don't play with it either.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't go messing
Yeah.
around.
Yes.
With
You
it.
don't wanna
No
invite
Ouija
bad
boards
juju.
for kicks and giggles.
No.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I love this. I learned a lot and really got to explore an area that I never talk about this. Who talks about this? I love this. You talk about this. Well, that's, you talk about a lot of things I don't talk about normally because that's kind of your job. But Dr. Joy, Amber, Shari, thank you so much for being here with me today, letting me ask the silly question, I like to call it, like that question of, I don't understand it, help me understand. I appreciate the space to do that and have this conversation.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. So if you like content like this, or you just like exploring your faith, this is definitely the place for you. Join us for future Faith and Fire episodes. Be sure to like it, subscribe, follow, so that you can see all the content that's to come. And we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye.